how we acquired Gunpowder Tim. This was some time back, about 3,000 years in the future ago. I was serving in the 42nd Starborn under Queen George XII, while Tim was busy being mortal, like an idiot. It transpired that the Moon Kaiser had built a vast cannon upon the face of the moon, pointed directly at London. So obviously, every man, woman, and strong child, well, strong enough to hold a rifle, was shipped off to the moon to defend lighting. The Aurora was in the area, and, well, the toy soldier and I thought it sounded like a laugh. Tim was there with his best friend, Bertie. I can almost hear the recruiter's ad now. Grab yourself a laser lad and serve your queen with a smile, smile, smile. Light 'em with your Lucifer and burn 'em clean. Smile, boys, that's the style. Come on a grand adventure against a foe most vile. So, grab yourself a laser lad and serve your queen with a smile, smile, smile. Come on, lads, join up. The moon's not that far away, we'll be home by Christmas. Let's give the Kaiser a damn good thrashing. Let everyone know what hit him. Free laser to everyone who joins. Come on, you know you want to. It'll be so much fun. So join the Starborn Infantry. Defend your country. Of course, when they got there, it was a very different story indeed. The surface of the moon had been deserted for centuries. All the living there took place in vast underground tunnels that riddled it. They were muddy, they were dusty, they were cold. And half the time you'd be fighting in pitch darkness, illuminated only by muzzle flashes or a flare, or your comrades catching fire as the invisible beam of heat swept across no man's land. But worse, when you are camped down, you need to always be alert, ready for the early warning signals. If it was a gas attack, you could turn on the pump or get to a respirator. But worse were the radiation attacks. If you didn't have enough warning, you couldn't get to your foxhole and cover yourself with lead. It would cook you from the inside out. I was having a great time. But Tim and Bertie and their comrades had other ways of dealing with it. Gas last night, and gas the night before. Gonna be gassed tonight if we never gas no more. When you're gassed, you're sick as you can be, 'cause Novichok and mustard gas is much too much for me. They're choking us, they're choking us. One respirator and it broke on us. Thank your lucky stars that the pumps still work, 'cause coughing up your lungs can be a chore. Cooked last night and cooked the night before. Gonna be cooked tonight if we never cook no more. When you're cooked, you're hot as you can be, 'cause the Kaiser wants to microwave the British infantry. They're boiling us, they're boiling us. One less sheet between the four of us. Thank your lucky stars that you taste so good, 'cause you wouldn't want your corpse to go to waste. It's at this time that we found an interesting thing out about the toy soldier. It would obey an order to the letter, but it would obey anyone's order as long as you were wearing a snappy uniform. We first discovered this when we captured a lunar corporal with a familiar face. Later, the general issuing our orders had a rather familiar moustache. I even hear he made field marshal on the other side at one point.
What can I say? Our uniforms were all green and rumpled. Their helmets had spikes on. Come on.
Still, it seemed to have a good time.
Now sing.
When little generals play at war, they don't care what they're fighting for. Playground battlefields arrive with soldier toys bereft of life.
3, maybe even 4 years, before Tim's bosom buddy Bertie did what young men at war are, well, what they often do. He died. The details are boring, muddy, and irrelevant, but it had quite an interesting effect on Tim. Well, murder on the moon, and then with fury heavy set, and will carpet Jenny's tunnels with the rounds that we expect. They tried to shake off the missile, but having made a dent, and the blood will run like wine. Take no Christmas, give no water, show them all the colour of their entrails on the floor. The Kaiser's men are cattle to the slaughter, then the blood will run like wine. We'll rip the ragged iron out the sockets of their skulls. Their existence is a mad disease that needs to be upheld. Upon their rancid souls, they our bayonets will go, then their blood will run like wine. Take no Christmas, give no water, show them all the colour of their entrails on the floor. The Kaiser's men are cattle to the slaughter, and their blood will run like wine. Now touch better now. Take no Christmas, give no water, show them all the colour of their entrails on the floor. The Kaiser's men are cattle to the slaughter, and their blood will run like wine. So Gunpowder Tim cut a bloody red path through cannon, through infantry, dealing his wrath. Battalions were gathered and charged with his destruction, but all of them fell to his maddened corruption. Such violence couldn't last though, and Tim's luck ran dry when a Lenny lined the rifle up and let the lead fly. And when he awoke, he was chilled to the bone, kneeling unarmed at the Moon Kaiser's throne. And the Kaiser just smiled with his crown all askew, saying, "Well now, my friend, it's a pleasure to meet you. I hear you've made a habit of hanging up my boy, so I'll return the favour with what means I can employ. An extended execution by royalty appointed, and I warn you, the last one left me very disappointed." So the Kaiser opens up a box and shows young Tim my head. Fresh severed, but I winked at Tim, I guess I wasn't dead. Seeing there was hope for him, Tim looked around the room. A toy soldier in uniform with a royal guardsman's plume. Accidentally, it joined the Kaiser's personal guard, but it still followed any order if you gave it nice and hard. Behind the throne, the great gun stood aimed right at London town. Tim had his plan, and he prepared to bring the despot down. When the lunar cannon loaded, with its fuse prepared to light, Tim looked the soldier in the eye and gave the order, "Fight!" Chaos came to the Kaiser's men, the violence quick and mad, as the wooden man obeyed the mission briefing that he had. I spun my severed head and bit the Kaiser on the nose. He screamed in shock and dropped me, so I went after his toes. Confusion reigned, Tim took his leave and ran towards the gun, and turned the dial so right around the cannon barrel spun. He didn't know the firing codes, it wouldn't stop him long. The brutal hymn of Gunpowder remained his favourite song, and with a barrel from the armoury, he set the fuse alight, and ran into the life pod where the Kaiser spent the night. The pod was shielded hard against the force of 20 suns, but Tim couldn't get the visor closed before the fuse was done. So when the lunar cannon fired and blew the moon out of the sky, the piercing brightness of the blast burned out our hero's eyes. And with the force of every weary soldier's tunnel bomb, the explosion ripped through the full moon's heart like that! The moon was gone. And that, boys and girls, is why there's no longer a moon. It's why in your boring monodirectional time stream there will not be a moon a few thousand years in the future.